Here.
I declare we have a quorum. Can I get a motion to sign the minutes from 2/6/23?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting of 2/6/23 as presented. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nice have it. Thank you. New business. Beth Marshall, come on up. Yep.
Okay, so tonight we're here to approve the annual financial report, which you have 40 pages of fun information. So basically what I'll do is I'll go through the different pages. So starting on page 2 through 4. This is a summary of all of your, basically it's your beginning balances for all funds, all the receipts for all your funds, the disbursements for all each of the funds, and then your ending balances. Then the report behind it, which I'll go through, is the supporting document, document all of these different funds. So then when you go to pages 5 through 13, that's your detailed receipts. So basically every single fund starts like with your general fund, and it shows the amount of monies you receive, like for your general property taxes, your LOA, your excise tax, and all of those. It goes through all of those for pages 5 through 13. And then pages 14 to 25 is your disbursements. And again, that's by fund and each group. So you basically, everything is always broken down as far as your budget, your personal services, your supplies, your services and charges, and your capital outlays. So that basically goes through each one of the different funds for all the expenses that you paid. And then on page 29, that is your debt schedule, showing all the different debt that you have, showing the balance again of beginning balances, any additions, your reductions and your ending balances. And then it's also going to show the principal that we're planning on paying in 2023. Page 30 is showing deficit balances. Normally your goal is never to have deficit balances, but in this exception, you have your OCRA grant, which we have to, it's a reimbursable grant. So basically you have to spend the money before you get the money. So at the end of the year, we had spent money, but had not been reimbursed for that money. So that is the reason why it's negative. You'll see in a few minutes, you'll have a receivable for that amount showing the money's going to come in. So it's okay for this instance. And then on page 31 shows your transfers. Basically 31 through 34 are all your transfers between all of your different funds. So monies that we've had to transfer between like the general and the sewer, like sometimes, you know, like your sewer things gets transferred in for the utilities, you have to transfer it back and forth. So that's what that's for. Then on page 35, those are the grants. So this represents the different grants that we have. And we have, basically it's all the ones, the NDOT grants that we're dealing with and the funds related to that. Page 36 through 38 are your fixed assets. And basically it shows your beginning balances, any additions that you had, reductions. One of the new things this year is required by State Board of Accounts is showing accumulated depreciation. So we've gone through and we've updated what was prior year and what was current year. Then on page 39, this is where I was talking about, it shows the payables and receivables. So payables are anything that we've had to encumber, and we really try really hard not to, and we didn't have anything that we had to encumber at the end of the year that we would be paying in this year's budget from last year's budget. But we did have the receivable, which was $53,000. There's a little bit more than just that Okra grant. There was a few things that was also with the grants that we had. It's just the fund wasn't negative, but there was a little additional with that. And then on page 40, it shows the pensions that you contribute to, which is PERF and PERF 77. So that's the summary of everything that you did all in a little packet. Any questions?
Any questions? Looks all right, Joe. Thank you, Beth. Any questions from the audience? Okay.
The only other thing is you do have to approve this. And then also while you're approving that, we also have the sheet that you have that says transfers. Those are things that like, so within groupings, you have like group 1, group 2. There may be something negative within a group. So you have to transfer between those. I just always, again, just bring these just to show you every year. And so I just always have that in there as part of the approval process.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to approve the annual financial report?
I make a motion to approve the annual financial report as written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Those? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. All righty, what's on the next? Lori May, come on up. And Mark Elder. We're gonna, the Fire Township Territory Report.
Thank you so much for hosting us tonight. You've got two items in your packet. The first one is it says safe delivered. And this was, if you'll remember, in 2019, for those of you who were here, we came in and said, we've got a really bad situation. We've got all volunteers. We have 18 to 30-year-old fire apparatus. We have a tax rate that can't sustain part-timers for the next 2 years. We're going to run out of money. And we are unable to cover the ambulance contract with SEALs. That's where we were in 2019. So this was the packet that showed where we were. The second packet, so much happier, and we're going to talk about where we're at right now. So normally we would come in and just report on the previous year, give you just a quick summary. But we thought it was most appropriate because 3 years ago, when we formed the fire territory, we made some promises to you. We made promises that we would hire career firefighters and career paramedics. We promised that we would run 24/7 stations. We promised that we would have apparatus that would be in the right decade. We made a whole series of promises. And so we went back and we started looking through those presentations during the fire territory. And we want to give you an update on where we're at on that. If you want to flip, we're not going to go through every single one of these pages. You can thank me later. But we're going to go to 2019 to 22. And I'd like to have Chief Elder talk through where we're at on this.
Good evening. Thank you for having us this evening. So as you can see on the slide, we've accomplished quite a bit in 3 or 4 years. In 2019, we formed the Vernon Township Fire Department, and shortly after that, the Fire Territory. We went from staffing where volunteers who did the best they could responded from home. We now have people on station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that are career firefighters that are here every day, every third day, I should say. We opened our station in 2019, the station in Fortville, which provided 4 personnel to stay overnight. It was a year or 2 after that where we were able to do the same thing in McCordsville, and now all of Vernon Township has 24 hours coverage by personnel on station. What does that mean? Well, I don't have times prior to 2019 because the record keeping just wasn't there. But I can tell you from responding from home, it cut 5 minutes at least off total response time from when somebody called 911 for whatever emergency, whether medical or fire, to somebody at their physically showing up at their emergency, starting to take actions to mitigate it. In 2020, I'm sorry, we started the EMS division with Chief Kylie Culberson, did a fantastic job and actually implemented that about 6 months ahead of schedule. We purchased our new medic truck to replace the one that is 15 years old now, I believe, that was bought off the internet, sight unseen by the former group, not by us. And we have a second one on order today, which hopefully will be delivered by the end of the year, if not by the end of the year, the very beginning of next year. And the plans currently are to have that in service at McCordsville as what we call a jump company, to where if this truck's out of service, the crew from the engine can mark it out of service and take the second medic truck instead of having to call in Buck Creek or Sugar Creek or Greenfield or Fishers. So we will be handling all of our own EMS calls to the best of our ability. In 2021, we hired again the career firefighters, and over since then, we've hired all career firefighters, and now we're a combination department with career part-time, and we still have a handful of what we call reserve personnel. Reserve personnel don't have all the necessary certifications necessary to become a part-time or career, but they still have an interest. And we also have the fire corps program for those that can't actually fight fires anymore, just physical or whatever career choices they don't have the time, but they still want to contribute to the community. I think one of the best things that we've got going on is that we have right sized the apparatus of our department. When I say right size, the amount of apparatus and the age of the apparatus. We've downsized our fleet by 5 or 6 trucks because we just didn't need that many. The engines are 3 years old now. Well, they're 2019 vehicles, but they were in service for 2 years now. The medic is 3 years old, and we have again the second one on order. And then our air packs, which is a very vital piece of equipment for what we do. They are brand new versus the 20-year-old packs that we were using. And then finally, we broke ground on station 432, the new station that will allow personnel in a little bit more comfortable environment versus what they're in now. They're making do. They're in a modular home right next to the McCordsville station. But it'll be a lot better when we get moved into that new station. So, are there any questions for me before I turn it back over to Trustee May?
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Thank you.
Thank you.
So the towns of Fortville and the towns of McCordsville, the 2 town councils that stepped forward to support us in this endeavor, we could not have done it without you. This is truly a team effort. And what's been emphasized to us over and over again is there are territories that fail, where the partners break apart. And it's typically because they don't have good communications. So every year we will come back and we will walk through what happened the year before, or in this case, the 3 years before. And then we will come back in the spring and you will look at the proposed budget and determine if it is appropriate. I want to emphasize we were so very fortunate to have both Greg Brewer and Robert Holland. Thank you for sending Robert. He was phenomenal in terms of helping us through really difficult piece. We had to build budgets from scratch. I mean, everything was from ground zero. He was enormously helpful in that. And now we thank you, Tanya, for stepping up because it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a whole nother board every month and with a lot of items associated with it. So, you know, we've had some very, very serious accidents, particularly over the past year, probably more excitement than we really wanted. But next slide, as we're getting ready, in addition to the tax income, in addition to the tax levy, the big pieces that we brought forward are there had never been a growth appeal ever for the township. We've now received 2 growth appeals in a row. We have presented balanced budgets, and thank you, Beth, for all of your help as we've worked on that front. We have really focused on a strategically focused budget and trying to underspend our budget as much as we can. And why? Because you remember we originally came in and said we wanted to get special legislation. We wanted a smaller amount of money so that we could step up into our needs. The legislature told us that that's not what we were going to do. We were going to form a fire territory. And what it meant was we could not build the second station in time to do everything we needed to do. So they gave us some money in advance. We have not spent it. We have held on to it so that when we are fully functional, we will have the proper amount of money to manage it. So I want you to know that. We appreciate that because that was a gift in many ways. It wasn't one I wanted at the time, but I do really appreciate it now. And We also have spent a lot of time making sure that we're getting grants. We've made sure that instead of outsourcing EMS, we brought EMS in-house, and we have set up medical billing so that we now receive the insurance monies. I just want you to know that our rate is actually less than what Seals was charging before. So our residents are, they're bearing the gift of being able to bring EMS in-house. And then want you to know that we did get a AA bond rating, and fortunately we filed for the bond on the new station at just the right moment. If we'd been even 3 weeks later, it started to skyrocket. So we have not escaped the cost of inflation in terms of building, but we were able to borrow at a very good rate. If you want to flip to the next slide, the chief talked about our career firefighters. What a great team we have. And the next slide, just some more information in terms of what we have done in terms of going out to get grants, donations. The Fortville Volunteer Fire Department, when they closed, they gave us $130,000, which we were able to put toward the second engine. And that allowed us to purchase two at the same time and make sure both towns were covered. So we are very grateful for that. Next slide. On the township assistance side, I just want to mention this because I'm not sure everybody knows we do this. When people are in dire need, they come to us. We have an application process. The application is online on our website, vernontownship.us. And this is just a quick summary of the money that has been given out. When people come to us, they're usually looking for housing assistance. They're usually looking for utility assistance. We don't get to just choose who we want to give money to. We have a very strict process with guidelines that we have to follow, and the money does not go to the people who apply. It goes to the leasing company or the leasing individual or to the utility company. There are other items, indigent funerals, medical expenses, insulin, those types of things. If there are people who are in dire need, they do have to meet income requirements and some things like that. But I want everybody to know we do that just in case you don't. On the property management side, you may know that we have moved 3 times in the past 3 years. I am never, ever moving again. I don't care what happens. But we are now firmly established at 602 Vitality and have sold 3 buildings in the past 3 years. You also know that we take care of the historic cemeteries and have done restoration of all 4 in the past 4 years. And I hope you're proud of them because I think they really look good. And then, of course, the donation of the 2 parks to the 2 towns. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Next slide. And next slide, because we already talked about that. Just collaborations. One of the major items when I came into office in 2019 was there was a report out that is looking at the elimination of township government. And one of the big things that they commented on were that township government did not work with other entities, other municipalities. They were not public facing in terms of not having website, not having social media, not having open meetings, not meeting with everybody else. We meet with everybody, sometimes too much, but our goal is to be a partner within the community. Next slide. Here's just a list of all the community service projects, and thank you because there are people in this room who have helped us with the community service projects, partnership with police department, our car seat check programs, the community garden initiative, on and on and on. And I hope you all enjoy the honor flag program that we work with the Exchange Club to have those out. Fritz. The community garden. So we each year have worked with about 25 volunteers, and this year that's about to shoot up to about 50. And we donate fresh food to a farm at Fortville Christian Church. And we are now looking at dramatically expanding that program out at 602 Vitality. Just a few pictures and final slide. Just so you know where to find us, because I know while we've moved and while we've gotten everything set up, I don't know that we've always let everybody know where everything is. So we have websites for the township, website for Vernon Fire, and you can also find us on Facebook. So if you haven't gone out to look at those, please do. Final item, I just again want to say thank you. It's been an incredible partnership. We are very, very grateful. It was a hard job, but there's no way you can do it alone. And we had the support we needed from both of the towns. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy Carmack, you want to come on up?
Hello, this is going to be a new one for me because I'm used to people not hearing me. So you were really going to hear what I say. I came up with this idea. Of course, I had the help of Larry Kennedy saying that he didn't think Fortville really did very good on any display for veterans and stuff. And I got to thinking, and I thought, I've seen these flags hanging up in different towns. Cambridge City was the one that I found that was very appealing because they had flags all the way down 40, and it just really looked like they did a nice job. And I thought, well, you know, maybe we can get that started. And so I went to the internet and found this company, the Hometown Hero Banners. And so I just started checking into it, and then I've been talking to the other Rob, I think is his name, from there and stuff, and he just sent me the information. So that's what's printed all out, and I think Andy gave it all to you guys. So I'm not sure if you need any additional information. The other few things and stuff that I have chosen to think about and stuff is where to have them put, if you agreed to have them put up. And I would like to do Michigan Street for a couple reasons. And so the first reason is because there's a double charge for the hardware to hang the flags and the cost of the flags. And Michigan Street already has the hardware, so we don't need to double buy the hardware. There are 13 poles, but there's only 12 with double hangers. There's a missing rod on the bottom, so that one wouldn't be able to be used. It's at the corner of Leland and Michigan is where that one's at, I think. And and the other thing is I'm trying to keep it somewhat low as far as the cost and stuff, because some people will not be able to afford to do it. And I would like for everybody to have the opportunity to do that if they want to do that. And as far as funding and stuff, I was hoping that it would be, we could get sponsors, volunteers to contribute to that. So there's no initial expense to anybody except for just putting the flags up.
Did so the size that we're looking at is 18 by 36?
The
Or
banner pole that we, that wouldn't be on Main Street or 36. So the banner we're looking at is 30 by 60.
30 by what?
60.
30 by 60?
30 by 60.
So how many poles do we have down there? Are we just sticking them on Main Street, or it's gonna be Broadway too?
Well, right now we don't have anything on Broadway. Main Street's got 23 poles. And what I hear you say 13 on Michigan.
23.
And for some reason, I'm thinking we got poles on Merrill. They haven't.
There's poles out there, but they don't have the existing hardware to put the flag on. And on Michigan Street there is, because you've had a flag up on them before and stuff had something to do with health, wellness or something. Those are up there and stuff. And those to me look like the middle of the road flag size and stuff, which is, but I don't know that. That's just like me looking at it.
I'm thinking the banners on Michigan or maybe through the Fortville. You have banners over the top of here.
4x48.
I can't
Yeah,
hear you.
because they look to me to be.
You're talking too soft.
Well,
It might hurt, it might help if I turn my mic on.
Okay,
It was on, I turned it off.
okay.
But yeah, I think the ones on Michigan, I think those banners are 24x48. And the ones on Main Street are gonna be 30x60.
So Cindy, I'm excited that you did all this work. This is something that Joe and I have been talking about for ever since we started talking about the new lamp posts that were coming
Mhm.
down on Main Street. And we had just, we've been waiting for the flag holders to come in and we were talking, I don't know, did you talk to Becky?
Yeah.
And so I caught Becky up that we were planning on this.
Mhm.
So in your planning for, and your work that you've done, what was your thought on how to find out what hometown heroes, like how to advertise, how to find these people that might want to do it? And then how are we collecting, I'm assuming a photo and
Correct.
their information, and then how to collect funds for it?
The funds and stuff, I'm not too sure about. I'm assuming that I'll have to set up a bank account with Greenfield or something. As far as getting the information, and the information does have to come from the individual and stuff. The picture has to come from the individual and all that. Then I have to get it processed and sent to that company to make the banners. So there's some work involved there. But I'm willing to do that because I think it's a good cause.
Well, I love it when somebody has an idea and then follows through with it. So I'm all for it. I don't know. Have we talked about, and that's what it is.
We can, I think another thing. Sorry, I'm
They
gonna-
do it in Legion. Plus, a lot of times people that nominate their hometown hero, a lot of times they pay for it.
That's
Like
what the
if it's your
paper.
dad, will
Yeah.
normally pay for it. So there's a lot of funding available.
Yeah, I know. My family has bricks down on Monument Circle. Me, my father, my uncle, all that, and we paid for it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that expensive, but usually I think things like that, the family pays for them. Or they nominate a great uncle or a great aunt or whoever they want, and they
Right.
put
You
that up.
can get sponsors or somebody that'll support the cause for you and stuff. And they recommend maybe going to different businesses and stuff as far as like the Legion and stuff, and some of them may be contributing to it. The Legion would be a good source to find people.
Would you be taking them down during Christmas and then putting them right back up?
I think that was what my next question was gonna be, is what kind of time frame do you foresee these being displayed?
I was thinking about that this afternoon and thought possibly anytime after Memorial Day and then take them down after Veterans Day. And if that's too long of a period, I don't know how long it's going to be to get it turned around, to get it funding, get it paid for, get it made and shipped back to us and stuff. So I don't know like that. I have to play by ear.
I don't know how I feel about the responsibility of her having to collect funds and stuff like that.
I
It
don't
doesn't
know.
matter.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I mean, whoever's gonna head up that program, they can collect the funds and get the flags donated, and we can hang them up.
It is.
Okay.
Do you have any comments?
Well, we probably need to find a way to get it out there to people. I mean, that's gonna be the biggest thing.
I think if you go to Legion to
is-
VFW, it'll get out pretty quick. And then if you put it
They're
on their Facebook
Here and
page.
if they have a suggestion on different places to go, and they said that a lot of that will it just be word of mouth. to
Social
get it out.
media is a good place to get it. I think it'll take long for it. to
That's
spread,
true.
but just for people here locally, I guess if you post something like maybe a flyer or something, or
I mentioned it to Debbie Anderson this evening when we walked. The member of the ladies and villages. Or he'll get the word out there to.
Did go to the Legion and talk to them and stuff, but nobody called me back, so. At that time, I didn't really have any paperwork. Oh, all right, I appreciate
So
that.
when are the polls gonna be installed?
The Joe said they're gonna be delivered in April.
April?
Yeah, so this is perfect timing because if you noticed at Christmas time, we didn't have any decorations down Main
Mhm.
Street
Yes, I
either.
did.
And that really bothered me a little bit. Then they stuck me on a committee all by myself. So Joe and I are on a committee to decorate Main Street we were just talking about that and have a company that has flags. And I was asking him if we could do the hometown heroes through that company as well. Which we don't know the answer to that, but we're talking about getting American flags so we've got Christmas flags or holiday flags and snowflakes that we're thinking to order. And then we'll put up American flags off holiday season.
Right.
And that would go perfect with that. And I'd love to see it down Main Street and Michigan. And
Well,
I'd love to see it go down Merrill Street and Broadway when we get flags or
Yeah, we may
lampposts
have to
there.
put a few
So you
more
just go out and
poles.
find all those people.
All righty. Well, I appreciate you wanting to do this and the support. That's great.
But I think moving forward, myself or Joe would probably be who you know, if you
Contact.
we're the official flag committee now. So feel free to reach out to either one of us if
Okay.
you have
All righty.
questions or.
Sounds great.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you for all your
Appreciate it.
work.
All right, next on the agenda, James Mitch Howard. Come on up.
Thank you.
Came straight from Hancock County. Are you? Yes, until I called the cable got wiped out. When I opened up the alley. Everybody get one?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm not very good at this, so I'll make it fast. First paper is a deed entitled to lot 39, 40, and 41 in Fortville. The second paper shows the lots I just mentioned. It also shows that there's no alley between the property lines there. Libby's property and my property are touching each other. And then the third is an aerial shot from people that do these pinpoints all the time. And it also shows there's no alley between my house and Libby's house and Steve Quiggins and the funeral home. It shows it plainly on all three of those papers. So that's about all I got to say. You guys can decide what you want to do. And if the alley isn't blocked off, then I'll get my lawyer and contact you guys. It's all records from Greenfield. It's all plain and simple. It tells you who owns that property.
Where's the alley go?
It goes back to Main Street so they can get sewer and water. That's basically the only reason the alley was put in there, so they could put apartments above the main street down there.
But it doesn't go out onto Main Street.
No, it goes to the existing alley that comes up the back off of Stat Street. And it's never was supposed to be there. It shows on the property pins that my property touches Libby's. So how can they put an alley through there if there's no property rights? The town did it basically illegally because they didn't even get a SKU number to do the sewers and the water over there. I checked that in Greenfield too. They never filed anything to do any of that down the back of that alley. So everything they did basically was trespassing on someone's private property.
How long has those sewers been in there?
Thank you. I have no idea. It was way before. I know they were probably there before 64 when I moved into this area. I don't know when they got it, when they did it, or anything about it, but I know that it's on property that does not belong to the town. That's all I gotta say.
Right.
And I'm gonna block the alley back off, by the way. I'm putting my trailer back there. And if someone moves it, then they're trespassing and they'll be liable for the damage done to any of my vehicles. Thank you.
Is there any record anywhere that the town owned that alley?
Yes,
Where?
so this is something that Joe, and I gave you all a letter that, and then Mr. Howard has a copy of my letter as well. Something that Joe, right, it's in certified mail, and my understanding is that Mr. Howard disputes whether he got the letter that Joe sent him almost 6 years ago about this very issue. When it came up in when it came up to, this issue came up about 6 years ago, we had a surveyor take a look at this. And what the surveyor found is that while I think it's the Noel edition or the Fort edition that was recorded in 1849 did not show an alley. In 1897, there was recorded a map of Fortville, and that's where the alley then is listed. So at some point in time, stands to reason that right before the turn of the century, 2 centuries ago, there was an alley that was created. Probably, as Mr. Howard said, for utilities and access and whatnot. After that, deeds that I believe maybe even Libby's property, other parcels that have been deeded after the map of Fortville was recorded in 1897, reference that alley. Other properties, their driveways go out on the alley, which suggests there's an alley. There's also something called a prescriptive easement, which means the town could take an easement by necessity because of things like access, utilities that may have been there for 150 or 120 some years now, right? And if Mr. Howard, the deed, I'm glad that he provided us a copy of his warranty deed, because you will notice that it says that this deed is also subject to easements and restrictions of record and visible unrecorded easements, which is the 1897 map, prescriptive easement and so forth. So we looked at this 6 years ago. Joe and I talked about it 6 years ago, give or take. Joe sent a letter, Mr. Howard. I believe Mr. Howard's position is he never received it. Whether he did or didn't, doesn't change the legal fact that that's an alley, the town's alley. The town has been using that as an alley for 120 some years. You know, my legal conclusion is it's your alley. And if Mr. Howard obstructs the town's alley, we've got ordinances and rights as a town to do things about that.
Well, I want to see something that says it's ours.
Thank
Joe,
you.
you have that from Harold Gibson,
I
right?
mean, because I know as a kid, I think if I remember right, that the lot that Libby's is on and her house next to it
Was
was
vacant.
also part of the grain elevator. They
Yes.
owned all that. So I don't recall then that being an alley as a town one either.
There's never been anything to try to legally take, even to put the water rights down through there. They didn't have rights to even do that because they didn't eminent domain the law. They didn't take the land. They didn't even file a Q number over in Greenfield at the county seat to run sewers and water in that property. And if they can find that, then I'll give it up and I'll let them have the alley. But if they can't, then they need to stay out of my alley. If they want right away of that alley, then they can purchase the alley from me, which is I already told Fritz that I would let them buy the alley from me just to get the headache over with. But there's no way in Greenfield, there's no records of anything that ever shows the town of Fortville purchasing the land or eminent domaining the land to put those sewer and lines in through there. And another thing too, when they plotted out the town, every alley they stuck in this town was measured out to 15 feet. And if I measure from Libby's property or Stevie's property across that alley, you know how far it goes into my building? 1.5 feet. The alley's only about 12 foot wide. not 15 feet.
Why wasn't the
Again-
plat ever recorded like, I mean,
It was, there's a map, I can email it to you. Joe's had it for 6 years. We provided it to Mr. Howard. It was recorded in 1897. We can send it to you. And that map was recorded and shows the alley. That has to mean something. The fact that 120 some year old documents at the county, there may not be an ordinance or some sort of, condemnation. Look, none of us was alive when that happened, but we do know that after the plat that Mr. Howard provided you was recorded, there was a map of the town that actually created the alley and showed that there. And deeds after that, you guys weren't around in 1897. Fairly certain of that.
I've seen the,
1840.
How's that? You're welcome. Yes.
look at it.
Yeah.
We'll look at it.
And Tanya, we looked at this in 2017, had Harold Gibson look at it. He did a full analysis as a surveyor. I read over it. I agree. At a minimum, there's a prescriptive easement there. So, it's also just because property lines extend into rights of way, whether it's a street or an alley, it's pretty common, and Adam knows more about this than I do. That happens all over the state, all over the country, when, especially in older towns, that properties extended into the street. That doesn't mean that the property owner owns that street. In fact, I don't think they want to pay for the street or the maintenance or whatnot. It's just the way that things were platted out. And I think that's what we have here. And I think that's also
Did
why
anybody ever give Mitch that map? Has he ever seen
Yeah.
it?
Joe sent it to him in 2017.
I've shared a lot with Mitch over the years, and I mean, it's realistically, and without getting into too much of the detail, when we had the surveyor look at it, we were really focusing on the west side and the south side because that's the part of his property we were trying to acquire. We had his property fully appraised at least 4 times, if not more, trying to work a deal with him so we could get another access through there. The survey that he put together shows he feels 100% confident, or was it 90-some% confident
Yeah.
that he's got the stake along the railroad right away. They know where that southern border is. They know where the east border is. There's too much of an ambiguity with the north. There could be off 14 feet one way or the other. Noel could be 10 feet one way or the other, but he did also identify that he found a stake 12 feet from that would almost lay out the alley as a 12-foot wide alley. There was stakes in the ground that would show that. He did not mark the north side of Mitch's property because the ambiguities, there was nothing certain that he wanted to say, that's it. Because there was too many things back in 1849, which is actually about 170 years of that.
Right.
That's
For the
been-
original plat.
So that, it's been there forever. I mean, there was old sewers in there and old water lines in there. We did replace the old lines that were in there years ago. All the gas mains are running through there. There's homes with their alleys or their driveways that come out. The cemetery used to have access back to the alley till they put the fence up along there that cut that off. I mean, we paved it. There used to be signage up through there. In fact, some of the signs are still hanging that says.
What do you use it on? Yeah, just,
We only use it for utilities, but the neighbors also use it. And if you take that southern pin, which I don't want to, probably shouldn't get into too many details, and Alex, tell me to stop. if I
No,
go
you're
too
fine. I mean, facts are facts. You didn't
The-
make them. I didn't.
The
make 'em.
southern portion of it, that property, that stake, if you measure it, if you look at like the GIS, which you don't use that for legal, that's just kind of a reference. It shows that being 120 feet for his property. It shows Libby's property being 120 feet. So you combine those two together, it's 140 feet. There's 12-foot difference. If you measure from the stake by the railroad and up by Stat Street, there's 12-foot difference, which would break out the 12-foot alley. There's too many things that kind of insinuate that there is an alley, was an alley, still is an alley there. Some of the documents showed that only being 113.5 feet. So as far as his right of way, or his property line. So you're looking at 100 and if he goes all the way up to like Libby's property line, like he says, that would be 132 feet. I've never seen anything showing that he had 132 feet property on that side. I've seen 113.5 and I've seen 120. Never been able to find anything
And
that
this
says.
morning.
That's the bad thing. Back in the day when they first platted, that was one of the first plats in Fortville, when they platted that area with around the grain elevator and everything. They just did things different back then. They weren't as specific and clear. And how do we know that that alley wasn't turned over with a handshake back in the day, you know, or given for $1 or something like that? But once it's there, it's kind of perpetual and it's an alley. I'm sorry. I mean, if you want to give it up, that's a different story, but in my
And
opinion.
there's a process to go through that, which you would vacate the public alley. But to your point, Tanya, you're exactly right. I mean, where is it in the deed? The fact, everything that we're talking about to me suggests, you know, this language that this deed that Mr. Howard holds that he got from the grain company was, for some reason, they put in subject to easements and restrictions and recorded invisible, unrecorded easements. So visible, unrecorded easement would be an alley that we can all see there.
Right.
That may not be recorded, but would be a prescriptive easement that's there. So I think the grain elevator, I mean, we can't go back and talk, and this was in March of 1990, right? So all this was quite a long time ago, but there's a reason why they included that language, because they didn't want Mr. Howard to come back on them and say, hey, wait a second, you sold me this property. You didn't say anything about the easement. Their lawyer almost certainly would say, Mr. Howard, you know, it says right here, subject to that language. And that's why the lawyers will include, you know, language like that when things maybe aren't clear, because you're
Sure.
dealing with 150-year-old documents
I
and maybe an
understand that.
incomplete record. So
Well, another-
my advice, my conclusion and advice to the council is I believe that it's an alley. The town has the right to that alley, the sole and exclusive right to that alley. I understand Mr. Howard's concerns, and he felt like he owned something or something is his, and now all of a sudden we're saying it's not. I get that. But legally and with the facts and the analysis that we've performed, I think it's your alley. And as Joe said, and so you can open it up, you could make parking or an additional drive or whatever the town feels like it could use that alley for. Or if you think that there isn't a need for the alley, there's a process that Joe mentioned, and you can vacate it and
But I would
give
like
some
to
of it to
point out,
Mr. Howard, give some to Libby, give it, I mean.
I want to point out the issue with that though. So if there actually is an alley there that's 12 feet, to vacate it, 6 feet goes to one property owner, 6 feet goes to
Right.
the other. Libby, her neighbor, and anybody else that, like where the funeral home is, if that comes down, they wanted to build a
Right.
dish, they would not have access to that alley. They only have 6 feet. Because the other part would be, then Mitch's, it wouldn't be an alley. So in order to keep access for those other property owners, it needs to remain an open alley and access.
We can, but Tanya, we'll send you, either Joe or I, we'll send the whole council.
Understand what I. Or he probably just misunderstood. I really don't know. I've never seen Mitch really use the alley other than parking that trailer in there, and he had a van in it for a while. I mean, he doesn't really need it. There's no access to his, I think there might be one door on that alley.
It's back.
I
think he's got an overhead.
It's off the alley in the back of the garage door.
Okay.
Well,
And I know that it's not our responsibility, you know, that he's read this wrong, if that's what but I wanna be
Sure.
able to show it to him. He needs to see it. If he's not seen it, or he says he's not seen it, I wanna show it to him.
Which is
And then I'll
why-
know he's seen it.
Right, which is why,
Yeah.
you know, talking with Joe and Fritz, I sent out the letter.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the mail, but I knew he'd be here tonight, so I just
And
gave
maybe
it to
there's
him
nothing
to
that we
make
can
sure that
do.
there was no question that he received.
okay, for someone who lives on that alley, walks down that alley and works at the opposite alley where this, empties into. I understand why he was asked to move it after the fire on Main Street. I would hate to see my side catch on fire and have no access to the alley. What I don't like are the cars that come down. That alley is right up on his property. He lost his cable line the day it opened. So big trucks are gonna go down there. There are bushes along my driveway that I was told that when people had used it before, big trucks would come down that alley and they drove up into my driveway to clear Mitch's property to get down the, well, I don't want that. And when I've got the bushes there now anyway, but those pizza guys zip down there. I understand it needs to be opened for utilities and for
It just needs to be.
for safety. But is there any way that we could put a bollard there or something to appease him? It's blocked off. It's something that could be removed if we had an emergency. Or, I mean, is there any?
It's.
Oh, I
the
got
town's-
fire and
it's the
police.
town's
right
out.
here. I got town.
The answer to your question, Libby, is yes, if the council decides that that's how you want to obstruct, limit traffic to, so it's your alley. So, yes, I mean, just like downtown where now we've got the seating and the lights and whatnot between the buildings. If you want to do something like that, you could. It's the town's, my belief, based on what I've looked at from the research we did 5-6 years ago, nothing has changed. My opinion hasn't changed. It's your alley. And so doing something if bollards or restricting traffic is what's in the best interest of the town and the folks who live, not just because you've got property there. I mean, it's just in the
Right.
best interest that you've got the responsibility as a council to take actions in the best interest of the public health, welfare, and safety of the town. And so if that means bollards or restricting traffic from one way or whatever it might be, you work with Joe and the street department and you make that happen.
Yeah.
Just a quick question, Chief, can you tell me, do you have anywhere else in the township where you guys have got a gate or bollard or something like that that allows you guys to get in but restricts?
Not
Public?
off the top of my head in this area, I am familiar with it. Some other places, they do make all that can stood in the ground. have lots of places.
Does that require a Knox box or something? Then how's that?
I would recommend it not, they. Third party, they do have to use that.
Yeah.
There might be ways to have dual lock mechanism. They do make.
Okay, thank you.
Would there be a reason why, I mean, how would you guys handle a fire on that side of Main Street anyway? I mean,
It's hard to, I can't give you any exact play by play. What I do see is that it may be a situation where we would need to have one of the engines or ladder trucks on the back side of the building, and that alley might be the best place to bring them up.
can you get a truck down that alley?
From, yes.
There's big box trucks that go through there.
Yeah.
They do.
If we could, yeah.
Is there?
And
I mean, Mitch's out, the one next.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
There's not lines and stuff hanging. across
Well,
the alley.
Not
and the fact that the cable,
literally, not now.
the fact that the cable line got tore down, that's more of the fault of the cable company because they should have held it. They should have had it up high enough that vehicles could have cleared it. So they just didn't put it high enough.
Yeah.
Would you feel more comfortable having access to that than not having it? Yes.
And I will add too, on that side of Main Street in that area. I think the nearest hydrant's at least a block away. if not more. And there's one at Church in Maine, yeah, so. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, you're gonna need room to pull hose to get up to that. Unfortunately, there's.
Well, ever since they, when tax man went in and they closed that alley off to have it run through, it's dangerous back there. There are a lot of, with the pizza, residents aren't allowed to park in the alley. But every building is occupied and has a driver or multiple drivers that park back there. And then the box trucks come and deliver and they back out or they pull into in front of the Chinese restaurant. And now they're going down the alley or they'll come out that one way. And if you come, I invite you to walk down the alley. The funeral home's brick wall is falling down.
Yeah.
Their garage has been destroyed by the box trucks. So it's just, that's a bad alley. Drainage is bad. I mean,
We need to figure out a good resolution to this, I think. Somehow.
I'm open to suggestions.
Well, why is it ownership or is it I wish he didn't leave, or is it the cars driving down the alley and tearing up?
Probably both. That's probably why he blocked it off, because he didn't want people to walk it down there. I would say it's both. But I don't know.
People, kids go through there every night.
Yeah. I'd say vehicles.
Kids that go in that alley every night.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they did.
It's traffic probably, because I'm sure he hears that inside.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
All the
so-
box trucks, the
yeah.
deliveries.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you saying? They used to make basically the big square to get through, and now they can't. The taxman took that. And they have to find a way, and some of them try to back out. And let's just say they're not professional drivers. They're
No.
professional delivery people.
They are. That's even that word.
And I want to add too, we worked in good faith trying to find a resolution with that alley and another access. So the traffic wouldn't be going down on the north side of Mitch's property. And we, like I say, appraised the property at least 4 different times, if not more. And made a couple of different offers. And I think the RDC back in the day was pretty generous and willing to help, do some improvements on that property to add some parking and maybe add some other access points and everything. And I think after getting denied, or sure sounds like a good idea, and then all of a sudden we changed, our minds and we're not going to do it. I think they kind of just said, we're done. We're not going to go any further.
And when you're saying minds were changed, Mitch changed his mind. RDC said they weren't going to go any further.
Right. After spending so much money on the appraisals, 4 appraisals, had the survey done and writing up the offers and everything that never went anywhere. It's like we spent too much money.
The RDC, I mean, I was around when all that was happening and it was very much at the RDC that Joe, we thought we had a deal in principle. Otherwise, you're not going to go through and spend all that money. And then it was at the 11th hour, it was time to sign the papers and move forward with what the RDC thought was going to be a really great project to transform that area.
Yeah.
Mr. Howard decided not to.
Well, I went on the town council, but I think what the wording on the contract that he would be liable if there was tanks or something found in the verbiage of that contract. That's what kind of scared him off. If you guys had started taking up and then found a tank where that big mound is, he felt that he was going to be held accountable to clean that up.
Well, he'd
remove
be,
that tank.
regardless of what's in the contract, I mean, Indiana environmental law would put him as a former
Yeah.
owner of the property as potentially
I think he wanted
responsible
to put the
party.
burden on you guys, though.
I wasn't,
But there was
as long as
never-
I'm your lawyer, I'm not gonna let that happen. but-
I don't know. There's never a counter offer like that.
No.
Even
No, I think that's what made him back out, because when I saw the contract, he showed it to me. And that was the verbiage that was in there, that he
Right.
would be, if they found something, or there was any kind of contamination that needed to be hauled off, and that's what. And that, like I said, that's 2017, I remember that was the blocking right there. But I don't think they made a counter offer or anything.
I don't remember one.
No. Okay,
So
all
it
right.
sounds like we'll get you, Joe or I'll get you counsel, the 2017 analysis from Harold Gibson. And, the documents that
Yeah. I'll see that.
I know that Joe sent to Mr. Howard.
Yeah.
Whether he got it or not, the fact still remains that,
Obviously, there's some things there
sure,
that, or he wouldn't be like that, because that's just not their nature.
Okay. We'll move on. Thank you. All righty, council to consider second reading ordinance number 2023 2A, amending and reinstating the street schedule of the town code. So these are the streets that you said that are all.
we did find a couple of errors in there. Actually, Adam found Wilson's Farm Drive. I left the S's off on there. I thought it was Wilson Farm Drive, but we did make those corrections. So this is the proper document, and what this does is it designates where the stop signs should go, the stop streets. And it's mainly updated due to the new developments that went in Mount Vernon North and Northwest Fortville.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the,
Did we add a stop sign over there on Walnut Street? We didn't. do it.
No.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2023-2A, amending and restating the preferential street schedule of the town code.
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Missy, get your signed copy this evening. The second one.
Okay, Joe. You're
Just
up.
a couple quick items. Due to the census, every 10 years when they do a census, they look at the, what do they call it, the metropolitan planning areas for the communities. And just like the last time when they did a census, we got thrown into the Indianapolis planning area. And last time what we did is we, I believe it was a resolution. I don't know if it was an MOU or if it was a resolution that we wanted to remain in the Anderson MPO. Anderson MPO has been very good to us. They house our GIS, I'm sorry. And we just felt like if we were to go to the Indianapolis MPO, we'd be a small fish in a big sea as far as trying to get dollars and assistance and stuff like that. So I don't have an ordinance or a resolution, I'm sorry, for this evening, but it's just something that I wanted to bring up to speed on and see if you were good with continuing it with Anderson MPO. We try to have a resolution for the next meeting, and we need to get that to Indianapolis MPO so they can get that finalized. And if we can, and I don't know, Adam and I talked about this a little bit earlier, and also with the Anderson MPO earlier, we would like to include the 2 mile fringe around the community because that's kind of our planning area. And that would allow us to get funding, like if we were to expand into that area in any way that we could possibly get some funding for some road work and stuff in that area, if that's part of it.
Okay.
So thoughts?
Yeah, let's move forward.
Okay. Sounds good. And then the only other thing I've got is the guys have been working on the a surplus list for our inventory, the things we want to get rid of. I've got it from the street guys. I think Heath has got his pretty much put together. I want to clean up a spreadsheet and I'll get it to Pat. And I don't know if you've got yours done, but we can just add it all to one sheet. And I'll hope to have that to the council before next meeting so you can look at it and we can declare that surplus and move that stuff out of here and clean some space up. Other than that, that's all I've got unless you've got something for me.
No.
Thank you.
Adam.
Nothing for me, but certainly if you have any questions on anything, I'm more than happy to try to answer those.
How's the South 13 project moving forward?
The South Madison Boulevard.
Yeah.
Well, that project, we have not had recent conversations with the developer who's looking at developing along a stretch of that and would presumably be responsible to put in that road or a portion of it. So we have to, we're waiting to hear back from them, but we can always reach out to see where they're at. And we did want to take a more careful look at that proposal on a staff level before we obviously get it to council and the public. What else on Broadway then, or South Madison?
And then that.
Oh, there's some property along Broadway that the town has been in the process of acquiring, and that is ongoing for right of way for that road.
Okay.
Beyond that, nothing new to report.
Okay, thank you. Heath's here, come on.
Heath Luther, Parks Manager for the record. Just a few things tonight. First and foremost, I wanted to give the council a heads up that I'm looking into, and I've talked to Joe about this. It'll still be within the spending limits, but we're looking at getting the fire panel and monitoring system over at the community center. Right now, we've got a very old system over there, and we've had some issues with it. Having the vandalism kind of prompted some of the stuff being replaced, but the whole unit needs to be replaced. I've got some quotes. It's relatively inexpensive, under 5,000 to have everything replaced and monitored. So that's something we're going to be looking at doing over there. Another expense I'm going to be looking at here soon. I've got a meeting tomorrow, first one. We are running out of space in our parks barn. We acquired the Bobcat from the street department with them acquiring their new Bobcat, which is going to be a great tool for us to utilize. Obviously, we bought a trailer last year. We need to have space to be able to put this kind of stuff in. Our back barn has the space. We finally have everything cleared out. That was the Optimus prior, big signs, and there were electrical poles back there that I can only assume were from the, I don't know, 50s, 60s, somewhere in there. So we're going to look at getting that barn kind of put back in order for us to be able to utilize. There's bullet holes. There's probably 50, 60, 70 bullet holes through that thing. I think it's the original farm barn back there. I don't know if people used it for target practice or what back in the day, but we're obviously going to have equipment back there. Want to look at getting it secure, but being able to kind of revamp that a little bit. So I don't know what that's going to run yet. Again, I've got a meeting tomorrow. The bridge, I know Tanya had gotten a text message from you about that. Just so everybody's aware, we've got everything to redo that bridge down there. Right now, the biggest issue is it's too soft for us to be able to take any heavy machinery down there. We were looking at possibly holding off just a little bit because we had a gentleman in town that has essentially volunteered, Mr. Hurlbutt. I don't know if anybody knows him. To have his company come in and sandblast that bridge and spray it and do some things to make it look a little bit nicer and have it last a little bit longer. He had asked originally to be able to do it without the wood on there because it'd make it easier for his crew. But at this point in time, they've got to have certain temperatures. It's going to be a little bit yet. So as weather starts to warm up, he relayed to me that we'll be able to, they'll be able to cover the wood up. So we'll probably try and get that bridge put back together as soon as we can get equipment down there. And then he can come in and do his thing after. So, full-time employee, I know it was already approved in the budget for this next year. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we'll be looking at adding a full-time person. I'm getting with Joe as far as what that job description looks like. It's not really going to change from what it has in the past. Somebody to come in and help out with the grounds and maintenance as we start to get into that season. Right now, it's not super essential because mowing will start here in probably about a month, I'm guessing, just kind of the way the weather trends have been. But moving forward, that person's going to be more of a grounds maintenance, just continuing to do the things that we need to try and catch up on. As far as Natalie is concerned, just so everybody's aware, she is no longer, I guess, on the payroll. As far as the events are still concerned, she wants to continue to do those events. So we're looking at a couple of different options to be able to maybe partner with her and still be able to do the events and the festivals and those kind of things. She wants to do those things. She's been doing them for a while and she's still excited about doing those. Let's see, marketing. I know, Rich, you had talked to maybe Jen Wells a little bit about some of the marketing that we did over for Winterfest. I had a meeting with Hancock Health a couple of weeks ago, and Ms. Lear was part of that. Part of that conversation was how do we continue to build on the footprint and the growth that we had over the course of Winterfest. So their marketing team is supposed to be putting together a proposal that isn't just it's Fortville Park specific. It's a Fortville specific kind of proposal where maybe some of this this marketing contract is paid for through sponsorships, but it would include the town, local businesses, those kind of things. I believe Greenfield has their own, maybe Greenfield Main Street page versus the actual town page. And my understanding is that the third party marketing group is the one that can runs that. And so they're able to promote whomever, whenever, and they try and gear more towards events and things happening in and around town versus, they made the comment that they don't put, if a road's closed down for construction, things that you would find on the town website where people need to find information like that. This would be more of a marketing strategy. I know based on just kind of some of the views and hits and some of the reviews of what happened over Winterfest, it was pretty successful as far as the outreach with social media, digital media, paper media, Greenfield Reporter, Geist Magazine, those kinds of things. So as we continue to grow as a town, I think one of the opportunities that we have and the council needs to look into is how do we continue to promote those kind of things and promote the things that we want people to know about the town of Fortville. So I'll figure out kind of what that scope looks like when they get back to me. They're supposed to be putting together a proposal that's kind of inclusive for everybody. So the last thing that I have, I'm looking for council's approval for, as usual, Summerfest. This year, Saturday, September 8th will be Summerfest with the fireworks / Summerfest with the rain date being the 7/15, that following Saturday. So I'll ask approval for that this evening. And then I've got a couple other caveats. I've been asked by Natalie that if we are able to, this would probably a Pat discussion as well, but if we're able to close down the night before, maybe after 8 o'clock for vendors to start setting up, it makes it much easier and much less chaotic on Saturday morning. So that would be something I would ask as well, that maybe after 8 p.m. on Friday evening that we're able to start setting it up. We've done it in the past. It's the same thing that we've done every year. And then the last thing on that is because it is in the park and we have the ordinance, we have to get approval for alcohol as always. So just so everybody's aware, we've started doing things, trying to be by the book with the help of Mark and Josh and a couple other people with Department of Homeland Security permits and things like that. So we're trying to go through the right channels to make sure everything is good there. As far as the ATC is concerned and the alcohol, we make sure that we've got the right permits and everything for that. So that's all I have. I'll ask you guys to make a decision on those dates and those couple other items. And then if you got any questions for me.
July 8th, right?
Yeah, what did I say? June?
September.
Sorry.
What was the rain date then?
Yeah, the following the 15th.
So July, do you want to go ahead and do you want to go ahead and write all this up on an event planner or whatever that thing is? That would probably be easier, wouldn't it? Or do you want to just go ahead and, do you want them to fill out the event plan?
We don't typically, because we're exempt from that.
Okay,
We don't
okay.
typically fill out the application.
Yeah.
July 8th,
Okay.
July 15th, sorry. So 4th of July, right?
Can I get a motion to approve July 8th?
I make a motion to approve the Summerfest date of Saturday, July 8th, and the rain date being Saturday, July 15th.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those? The ayes have it. Thank you.
And then Friday,
Do you want to vote on the other request, the street and the alcohol?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, sometimes it'd be easier if we wrote all this up too. Can I get a motion?
we do have, you guys just have to make an exemption for alcohol in the park because we have the ordinance, which
Okay. So. The Friday. July 7th or July 14th. For access to the Summerfest and to.
But on the 7th, let me check on the 7th. Talk to Taxman and Jake Burgess. We're closing on Friday at 8 o'clock. We better.
we're not close to Main Street. We're just To right in front of Libby.
Okay. I think next time, fill out one of those. Maybe one of those pieces of paper would probably help me more. Okay.
And to waive the AT alcohol.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I-
Aye. Those, the ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, did you? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
Nope, thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, chief.
Yes, sir. Obviously this week, myself and Chief Elder have been talking about the train derailment. We've reviewed Hancock County emergency management's plans that were introduced in 2017. Chief and I are gonna probably sit down sometime soon and kind of go over if there's anything we can update in it. We've got our evacuation route set, kind of pre-staged, pre-planned, just kind of everybody's on the same page there. It was funny when him and I both went to Misty Moore, the EMA director, the same day and asked the same questions, and Misty, as usual, is on top of it. So props to emergency management in Hancock County. I was going to have my yearly report finished up, but I had a serious question for Michelle earlier and then Beth this evening that kind of had me scared, but it's all good. So I will have that to you this week. And I will present it next council meeting for the public.
Okay.
You guys will have it this week for review.
So talking about the railroad tracks, I think they used to have a problem there at Carroll Road in 67 back in the day in the 80s. And if you see that neighborhood to the south of there, it's like 12 feet lower than the street. Have they talked about that at all? Is just raising that road up to the
In-
higher level?
In my opinion, that's what needs to happen, but that's a state highway and a CSX design that they would have to do
They
that.
haven't talked about it at all, or?
No,
they
what
just-
happened at 700 West years and years ago, there was a car that went airborne
Yeah.
over the tracks and it was an ugly scene. But they did come in, they spent a lot of money lowering the track. They had to go several miles to get it to lower through that area and also bring up the highway, kind of a combination. In my personal opinion, I'm not an engineer, but I'm thinking that at least raising the highway and part of 400 would help out down there, but I know that's an
Well, I think-
NDOT and a CSX design.
Because there's definitely gonna be more building on Cynthia Road. There's there's basically 4 empty fields.
Oh, not only that, once you cross Broadway 67, I foresee that being commercial someday, so there could be a lot of traffic going back and forth across that.
Funny you talk about this, talk about the airborne, about 2 months ago, my wife and I were driving. Unfortunately, the traffic coming to be far enough away, an elderly couple south on 400, and they did just that. And they were airborne, and fortunately, again, they landed out in the middle of 57. I followed them because I didn't know, they pulled down, swung the crest and get out and check the car, but yeah, they got it. I mean, it's seen right out.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I don't get on.
And I don't know if they're just not from the area. That was scary.
Probably. Well, I know one of the, I'd contacted the MPO to find out how many accidents had happened in that area with trains being involved. And I sent that information on to NDOT. They've got 2 people with NDOT. I think one is more over the CSX or the train portion and the others are a local guy. And I'm hoping they're gonna look into it and try to do a little bit more with it. One of the comments I got back was, why in the world would these trucks be using 400? And he was able to, one of the trucks had, looked like brand new GM vehicles on it. So why would that truck even be over there trying to cross the tracks? So he ran a little test on Google Maps, like to come from up north to say if he's trying to get to McCordsville. That showed up as an alternate route rather than bring them down 13 to 67. Why they, why they showed that, I don't know. I did get on Google Maps and try to find a way to contact them about changing or making some modifications to their map. I did send an email or a message on there, and I've not heard any response back. As big as they are, they probably get hundreds of those things a day, I'm sure. Is that right? There were signs at,
Just quit on what's gonna happen.
yeah. When I,
Unfortunately, people don't listen to signs.
Yeah,
They don't look, and they don't understand.
yeah, the only thing I can think of is get with the county commissioners because they are in charge of that signage on 400 going south at 1,000. And either that or make an area, see if they can make an area where trucks can turn around when they get there and they realize, oh crap, I can't make it, because they're not gonna back up a mile and a half to get back
They're
to
committed
1,000.
once they
They're
get
committed.
there. Yeah. Well, if they,
You get
Mhm.
scared. So if you think you're gonna clear that, then you
Oh,
probably
yeah.
shouldn't be driving in.
Yeah,
we need to have some big pictures of an accident with a train.
Yeah.
And don't be this.
but any word to the county commissioners would help.
For John, they are looking into it also.
And I have, after I sent that email to NDOT, I know Flory had reached out again and reached out to the county highway engineer, Gary Poole. And I know she's also talked with Bill, the Commissioner Bill.
I think there's gonna be a story in the reporter also. Okay.
Hire anybody yet?
No, I have my last 2 interviews this week. I'm on call afternoon and Thursday late after.
How many people total?
5 total. I've
Good.
interviewed.
Good.
Okay.
Missy?
Not unless you have something for me.
Nope.
Or if I could get the
Al-
vouchers this way, that'd be great.
And you got your signed ordinance, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Alex.
The only thing I've got the latest on the proposed bill on the pet stores. It is now officially in the House, the Indiana House. So it's got us 2 sponsors and 3 co-sponsors or something like that. So it looks like it's got some pretty good momentum behind it coming out of the Senate. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you up to date, but I know that impacts on some of the conversation we've had over the last couple of meetings.
Okay. Alex, are you tracking that other bill that, what is it, 1085 about the RDC stuff and those
Yeah.
things? Where's that at now? Do you have any idea?
No, I didn't pull that one up, but I will. Let me see.
I think the full House, Indiana House is supposed to look at that.
1085.
I think they made a few adjustments.
It's on, yeah, they've had 2 amendments on it and now it's, as of today, placed back on second reading in front of the House. So it's started in the House. It's not yet out of the House. So we will see, but yeah, we're keeping an eye on that as well.
Public comment, town council comment, Libby.
My only thing is, oh, well, I've got 2 things. My committee met today before our meeting and with some input from a few helpers here on town council. We're gonna have some lovely Christmas displays. Christmas time. The second thing is our solid waste management committee met and we were asked if Fortville wants to host a recycling event this summer, sometime in June. We can just say yes and where we'd like to have it. What day? If
What are we
anyone wants to volunteer.
recycling?
Well, normally
Everything.
the bank will volunteer their parking lot.
I feel like we did it last time out.
Out their way, yeah.
Township.
Yeah, because there's like tire and paint and electric and
No glass, though, right?
I don't,
Gotta do painting.
yeah. You know what? I'll have to double check on the glass because we do have glass. There's a company that collects glass, then makes it, recycles it into something. And I don't know if that's part of this event or not, but
Okay.
yeah, so should I check with Flory? Okay. Anybody care about a date on that? No?
No, not
Okay.
really.
I will do that. Thank you. That's it.
Tanya,
I have nothing.
Becky,
Nothing.
I'm good. Can I get a motion to approve?
Don't forget Ryan.
Brian?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Sorry about that. Out
I
of
can
sight,
barely
out.
talk.
Yes. Can I get a motion to approve and sign vouchers?
Make a motion to approve and sign vouchers.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn at 8:25.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.